Hey everyone, this is Motzie. Quick announcement. We are doing pre-orders for a limited time Hainai print and sticker sheet. The print is our winter market print that depicts Danny and Cornelius, and the stickers depict some of our Baybayin titles, our regular titles, and of course our adorable little Timies, or the tiny little Hainai main character lineup, all of which you may have seen on our socials. I drew the print and designed the titles, so if you would like some of my art in your home, watch out for the pre-order link on May 13 on all our socials. That's May 13, Tuesday. The order link will be available on our shop, coffee.com/HainaiPod/shop. All links and information are included in the description. This is a great way to support the podcast and get some Hainai art in your home, but there are only 25 slots, so please grab them while supplies last. Join our Patreon. We have cool stuff. Patreon.com/HainaiPod. Especially if you want episodes without ads. We know the ads suck, but we need them anyway. Okay, thanks, bye. We'd like to give a special shout out to the following people for making this episode and the rest of Act 3 possible. Louis, Malaya, Reg, Daniel Athern, Osterkim, Vanna, Finch, Dr. Dan Venning, Sleepless Berry, Court, Rogue Canoe, John and Muna, Sadie, Zay the Great, Elliot Kane, and Trident. Thank you for your support. Maraming salamat. You're listening to Hainai by Motzie Dapul. The Young Man, a Hainai short story, Part 1. I have a story to tell. It's not one you're supposed to know about yet. But it's our little secret. Don't tell them I told you. There was a young man, you see. One among about a dozen educated young men, toiling away at their jobs managing accounts and bookkeeping at one of the many factories in operation at the turn of the century. Toronto had become, by this time, an undeniable metropolis, and its great men, titans of industry. Many young men of the growing middle and ever-present upper class were employed in the countless offices, factories, and various other modern businesses of the era. Ordinary men who lived, worked, drank, and made merry, comfortable in their position. But this young man, well, he was different. From his clothes, well kept yet worn, to the way he carried himself, quiet and intentional. From the way he dipped his head low when he greeted the overseer every morning, to the way he stayed long past others leaving, completing twice the work for no extra pay. One might have considered him meek, if not for the steeliness in his eyes, the determination that creased his brow. A handsome man, but not quite friendly, at least not with his peers. The appealing look of him gave him an air of mystery, rather than the grating impression of misanthropy that might have plagued an uglier man. Still, while he was perfectly pleasant at the workplace, he was always much too busy to go out with his coworkers. They learned to stop asking long ago, though he waved them away with a nod and a charming hint of a smile, and even a recommendation or two, before returning to his never-ending work. More often than not, the young man found himself sharing later nights with the overseer, who was a somewhat severe yet dependable manager, who kept both clerical work and the factory floor running smoothly in his tenure. He prized utility and rewarded efficiency, and seemed to have few, if any, prejudices, but for those who were wasteful of resources, of his time, of his patience. The office spoke of him with careful side-eyes, granted him a nickname or two akin to military titles, but nobody could truly fault the man for being a stolid professional. He was not prone to abuse nor kindness, and in that manner he was preferable to work under. For if he was anything at all, the overseer was, at least, fair-minded. Such an overseer was not one our particular young man thought he would consider a friend, and yet, in the lamplit evenings of their shared labor, he would come over to his superior's office and pour him a drink, for his superior was the only man more dedicated to the books than he. It was with this strange companion that the young man shed the furrow of his brow, the seriousness that kept him quiet in the shared office. When the overseer asked why he stayed so late, when his duties did not require more than daytime hours, the young man would shrug before giving his answer. It was peaceful, he would say, this time of night. Moreover, there was little appeal to spending more time in his pathetic little cell of an apartment than was necessary. The overseer would look amused and suggest that a young man such as he would benefit from a drink or a dance like his peers, if he was already so married to his work as a senior. "You are my senior, but you are not so old," the young man would say, and the overseer would take the compliment with the drink he was offered. Would the drink and the dance appeal to you as well? And the older man would deny it, citing lack of interest. Though, he would add, he did appreciate good music, and found himself in certain establishments when the mood struck and the atmosphere was much more languid. He liked the slow jazz, the classics that moved the room a bit slower. The young man would eye his fingers, remark that they looked like a jazzman's fingers, and the older man would confess to a bit of skill with the piano. The young man would then clarify. It wasn't that he didn't love it. The music, the dancing, the drinks, the less than languid atmosphere. It was just that, he said, there was little joy in it when you found yourself drinking alone. And God forbid he'd dance alone. And with that, they would, with a shared amusement, clink their glasses together, little work done, but far ahead of the others, who had gone home for the night, or gone drinking and dancing to chase away the day's hardship. After many months working in this position, the young man and all his peers, and even those who worked the factory floor, were shocked by the overseer's absence one day. He was replaced by a nervous-looking man who was, it seemed, permanently attached to the papers he clutched in one hand, who informed them that their usual manager was attending to more important matters, and would return once these were resolved. It was strange to most, but especially the young man, who found himself truly alone after hours, without the comfortable presence of one he would, out of propriety, never say was his friend, at least not outright. He felt as though he ought to have been given notice at least, even if the reason was concealed from the rest. Had he not earned that? Did he simply not rank in the man's concerns, his affairs outside of the workplace? Was he seen simply as a convenient companion to while away the duller nights? These were the thoughts that plagued the young man till the week's end, when he left work only half an hour after it emptied out, and spent the night drinking at a dance hall he used to frequent before his current position. He was recognized by one of the bartenders, a beautiful woman with natural, fashionable water waves, who kept all in line like a den mother even at her young age. She wielded sharp words and a highly illegal sawed-off if it got too rowdy, and nobody could say nothin' when Violet got violent. She remarked on his absence while pouring him an old favorite. When he told her of his endeavors, she joked he was getting to be too good for them, but seemed pleased he was making something of himself. The conversation was interrupted by another young man his age, who gave the bartender a wink and a rakish grin as he gathered drinks for 3. He looked rich, with clothes of a make too fine, and fashion too fresh off the catalog to mistake him for the club's usual patrons. When the newcomer caught the lone young man staring, he granted him a flirtatious wink of his own, before gathering his drinks and making his merry, masterful way across the lively dance floor, like he wasn't weighed down at all. Jack, the bartender called him. Hard to miss the man, when he looked rich enough to buy every bar down Yonge Street and have capital left over, all while being black in God's own white Toronto. She patted the young man's hand when she said this, as though it would offend him, and went on to explain that Jack was a fine, friendly enough fellow, and had reason not to cause trouble, even if he had more than enough money to buy himself out of it. It was the first time they'd met, the young man and Jack, but it would not be the last. The young man stared across the dance hall and saw the rich young Jack sitting with his companions, kissing a pale, blue-eyed boy on the lips, and saying something to a serene-looking woman to his left that made her smile, though he got the impression she was not prone to smiling. He did not, at the time, have an inkling of how significant they would be to him later in life. But even then, he looked longingly at these finely dressed fellows, just about his age, and he dreamed. The overseer would return to work eventually, and seemed so flush with new responsibility that he had no words to exchange with his erstwhile drinking companion. An announcement was made that, to everyone's displeasure, he would be leaving his position and choosing his successor. It was thought to be an obvious choice, and when the young man who spent late nights ensuring all ran smoothly was overlooked for another, perfectly adequate fellow worker, he was, well, livid was not the right word, though he might have been, if he wasn't so confused. Had he offended this man so thoroughly that this was his fate? consigned to a life of mediocrity and stagnation? When finally he had the opportunity to speak with a man who was managing the last of his affairs by lamplight after the rest of the office had cleared out. He had no drink to offer, no words that felt appropriate, but the name of the man who was to take over his superior's position. In a tone so skeptical, it was downright vitriolic. His senior seemed to be waiting for something, so he asked outright, what had he done to offend that he should not be chosen for the position? Had he overstepped or misstepped in some way? And the other man, who was not prone to strong expression, began to laugh. And now the young man felt livid, embarrassed that he thought his work might be appreciated, that he might be understood by the man who spoke to him like, well, a friend, he thought. But when the older man, through calming chuckles, told him that this, all this, was beneath him, he was once more confused. "Fetch us a drink," said the man, "and I will explain." And over a shared drink, his senior explained his new position. Something of a secretarial role, but to one of the most powerful men in the city, who owned their factory and more besides. More a right hand than a bookkeeper, and allowing him to oversee not just a single office, but a rich man's dealings and the influence that he extended over the city and its officials. He had worked with this man before, in a limited capacity, but he was to pursue a new endeavor, and needed someone he could rely on to manage his affairs as he did. All throughout, even as he was awed by the idea of being in such a position, the young man still did not understand what it had to do with him, until his senior asked him a question, though by his tone, he already knew the answer. "Will you come with me?" he asked, and the young man was already nodding before he could even think about it. "Yes, Mr. Henry," he said, no more than a whisper. "Good," the older man went on, and as he explained to this young man how he would have to shadow him, prove himself to their new leader, as he had proven himself to this overseer, the young man listened intently, though his heart was pounding relentlessly throughout. It was the first time the young man truly believed, as he pondered this change in position, in his lonely little cell of an apartment, that he had a future which matched his efforts, that his worthiness had been recognized by a man he saw as great, who was himself in service to greater men that he'd only known of in papers and portraits, government buildings, estates, and public galleries. He did not yet know how great a man he himself would become, this young man, such that his influence would reach such heights that he could never have believed possible. He did not yet know in that lonely cell. But still, he dreamed.
You're listening to Hainai by Motzie Dapul.
Hey everyone, this is Motzie, creator of the Hainai podcast. Hainai is a podcast produced by myself, Yoi Halago, and Alyssa Jimenez, and co-created by Reg Helly, and licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 4.0 International License. This episode was co-produced by Jesse Goodsell, and written and directed by myself. And I also play the role of Other Maddie. If you'd like to chat with other listeners when episodes go live, we do a live premiere 3 times a month, on Sundays at 9 p.m. EST or Toronto time, on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/HainaiPod. To help support the production of Hainai, you can subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/HainaiPod. You'll get to listen to episodes ad-free and get to be part of our early access program, where episodes are released 3 days early on Thursday at 9 p.m. EST or Toronto time. You can also get bonus audio, art, video, and much more. Speaking of Patreon, we'd love to give a shout out to the following patrons for all their amazing support: Poyo, Nat Dwight, Phoenix Luna, Kate Jordan, Tiana Harvey, Dracocard, Sabine, Sean, Josh the Alchemist, Jess Snow, Maddie Remigio, Talon, Alan Weberman, Nanette Dapul, Mika, Matthew Upton, Anna, Sooks, Becca Terrier, Amelia Brownstein, Diana Cause, Melissa, Emma Heilig, Faye Fungi, Pablo Neurotic, Oscar Kim, Evie Smith, Megan, Jesse Goodsell, Malaya Light, and Victoria Goodwin. If you can't subscribe monthly, you also have the option to buy us a milk tea on Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/HainaiPod, HINAYPOD. You can even buy ad-free episodes over there if you purchase our Hainai album, which has the ad-free, credits-free version of our episodes from Act 1 and 2. You also get this album for free as a patron. Check out our website, HainaiPod.com, for more news and updates, and don't forget to follow us on all socials, on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Facebook, and now Blue Sky. Hainai is available on Acast and wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope you enjoy our Act 3 episodes. And as always, thank you, we love you, and hanggang sa muli.